In this episode, I'll keep working hard on this little farm, step by step, until I turn it into a thriving million-dollar homestead. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the journey. If you like what you see, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe. Thank you. After readjusting my plans, I decided to continue with some small repairs around the farm. I started with the old shed, which was in terrible shape. Using leftover wood, I patched up the walls to protect it from the rain, and then worked on the floor so it wouldn't turn muddy. Once that was done, I hooked up the tractor and returned the rear box I no longer needed. It was just sitting there costing me money, and right now every dollar counts. Speaking of money, I needed to find a way to secure some kind of passive income. That's when I remembered an abandoned beehive. I changed into protective gear and got to work. At first I was nervous, scared one of the bees might slip inside my suit, but while clearing the bushes around the hive, I noticed they had already produced some honey. Not a lot, but still, it was something. Encouraged, I decided to invest. With the money I had left, I bought 2 larger hives to help increase honey production. All I could do now was wait and see how much they would yield. Step by step, progress was being made. I wanted to make use of the sheep pasture we already had, so I changed clothes again and headed out to buy some good sheep for wool production. But first, I needed proper transport. At the store, the owner recommended a trailer, and without hesitation, I bought it. I was excited. Finally, sheep on our land. But on the way back, I turned too early, got stuck in a dead end, and had to make a detour. Eventually, I arrived, parked the trailer, and met the animal keeper. I'd never owned livestock before, so I listened carefully as he explained the best breeds for wool. There were so many options, and the prices kept climbing, but I trusted his advice and bought a few sheep for around $2,000. Before leaving, he explained how to feed and care for them. I was grateful for his help. To my surprise, when I checked the trailer, I realized I had also bought a baby lamb, peacefully sleeping in the corner. Back at the farm, the workers were happy to see new life arriving. I unloaded the sheep and quickly returned the trailer to avoid extra expenses. For food, I used the hay bales I had already prepared, free and perfect for the job. Next problem, water. The store had none available, so I had to improvise. I bought an old wooden tank from a man passing by for $800. It could hold 2,000 liters. Plenty. But when I tried using it, I realized it was broken. Water wouldn't come out, and it was too heavy to tip over. I went back, but I could only get $673 refunded. Still, it wasn't a complete loss. I desperately needed a solution, so I returned to the store and found a different tank for $750. This time I tested it on the spot. It worked perfectly. Back at the farm, I filled it at the well for free and finally gave the sheep their water. Things were slowly moving forward. The bees were producing honey, the sheep were settling in, and to my surprise, some were already expecting lambs. But progress wasn't enough. I needed serious money. I went to the contract board and found a very promising job worth about $20,000. Renting the machines wasn't too expensive, so I accepted immediately. When I arrived at the shop, I was shocked by the size of the equipment. I had never worked with machinery that big. I hired a worker to help, but he quickly caused chaos in traffic. I had no choice but to fire him and finish the job myself. Surprisingly, once in the field, the machines weren't hard to operate, and harvesting went smoothly. When the trailer was full, I delivered it. The contractor only needed 48,000 liters. The rest I could keep as a bonus. I sold my share immediately and was stunned. The green beans earned me around $27,000. With the contract payment on top, it was a massive boost. With this new money, I expanded the flock, buying 8 more sheep for about $5,300. For the first time in a while, I felt like the farm had a future. But not everything went smoothly. Despite all my efforts, the sheep weren't producing much wool, and the bees eventually disappeared, leaving little honey behind. Winter was tough. I arranged a meeting with local farmers, hoping for advice. Over food and drinks, they all admitted they couldn't help. Times were hard for them too. But one farmer suggested something I hadn't considered: solar panels. He explained I could even finance them with a loan. The next day, I went to the bank. Due to my limited income, they only approved $90,000, repayable over 10 years at about $900 per month. It seemed manageable, so I agreed. With the loan secured, I tore down the old garage and installed the solar panels. They cost almost everything I had borrowed, but it felt like the right step towards stability. To cut costs, I sold my old tractor for nearly $5,000 and went back to the shop. I explained I needed something stronger and more reliable. The owner recommended a Unimog, a multi-purpose beast. It wasn't cheap, around $30,000, but it was exactly what I needed. I also picked up 2 grass bales for about $1,500 each, strapped them down, and returned home to test the new machine. Feeding the sheep and filling the water tank had never been easier. The next morning, despite all the expenses, the solar panels had already generated over $2,200. It wasn't much compared to the investment, but it was a start. As I stepped outside, the weather was still rough, so I focused on caring for the animals until summer arrived. The farm was far from secure, but every little step forward gave me hope that we were heading in the right direction. 2 summers have already passed, and a series of events have unfolded. As you can see, our economy has grown into 6 digits. Quite an achievement, to be honest, but to make everything clear, let's recap what has happened. With the help of the solar panels, I managed to survive those harsh winters while carefully taking care of the animals every single day, even though I sadly lost a few to disease. For the bees, I built 3 additional large hives, hoping to boost honey production. During this time, I also came up with a new idea to increase our profits. I built a large automated mushroom greenhouse, which only needs water to operate, and a small farm shop to sell all of our products. The greenhouse cost around $9,000, and the shop space another $10,500. It was a big expense for something simple but necessary. In the end, $19,500. Well spent. Another summer passed, and I continued managing everything. The sheep were healthy, the bees were producing honey, and it was finally time to start selling our goods. The mushrooms yielded plenty, bringing in more than $12,000 in just a few months. Honey sales added around $7,000, and for the wool and milk, since I couldn't sell them in my shop, I found other buyers, making just under $9,000. Not bad at all for our first selling season. I was truly satisfied. But then, back at the farm, one of the workers made me an unexpected offer. He offered me $100,000 for the Unimog. He told me how rare it was, and that he had been searching for one for quite some time. It wasn't an easy decision, but that was a lot of money. In the end, I had to accept. After selling the truck, I called the architect to discuss remodeling the farm. We talked about the budget and the possibilities to maximize profit from the shop, and he told me he could start immediately. But first, I needed to clear the area so he could work freely. I began by selling the old equipment I still had and removed some trees he had pointed out. I gathered the cut wood, loaded it up, and went to the store. Since I no longer had any equipment or vehicles, I bought a sturdy tractor for $47,400 and a trailer for $7,400 to help with transport around the farm. Once I got back, I filled the trailer with wood and hauled it to the sawmill, but it only brought in $477. By the time I returned, the architect was already working on the farm. I decided to step back, let him do his job, and take a short break. The planned budget was around $80,000, more than enough for him to make the farm both functional and impressive. When he was finished, I had no words to describe the transformation. The beehives had doubled production. We were now selling fuel at the shop, and energy output received a major boost thanks to a brand new turbine. The sheep farm looked much more professional, and the old shack had been replaced with a proper shed with enough space for all the tools and equipment. Thanks to the money from the Unimog sale, it was finally possible to turn this auction lot into a fully functional and organized farm. In the end, the architect slightly exceeded the budget, but I didn't mind at all. He had improved the shop's revenues significantly. In the following months, I focused mainly on managing the farm and the shop, which was now well known across the entire village. Monthly income had already surpassed $10,000. The farm was now self-sustaining, but the work wasn't finished. With all the recent improvements, it was time to begin our expansion into crop cultivation.